Hey, Trevor, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we're good.
Okay.
Top of the hour, and welcome to the product group conversation for June. I'm Mark Ponsag, VP of Product Strategy, and the first thing I'd like to do is actually introduce Scott Williamson, our new VP of Product. Take it away, Scott.
Thank you, Mark. It's good to be here. Happy Friday. I think this is just Q&A, so fire away.
I don't see any questions in the doc yet, but please do write them down or just go ahead and verbalize them.
Since we don't have any questions in the doc, maybe you can just start with like a highlight of the highlights. Like, what are you most excited about in the next month? Or like, I guess maybe one positive, maybe one slightly more like a concern or improvement that you want to see. And then one of the maybe features that you know that are going to be coming in that you're really excited about.
I think the thing I'm most excited about team-wise is there's a lot of talent and horsepower on the team. So it's been fun to work with everyone, get to know the team. So I'm excited about the group that's already here. My number one priority is to hire more. We need the team to double like tomorrow. So that's my number one priority, and my number one concern is not having enough folks. That means that the people that are in each of their respective chairs are sort of covering more than they should, and their workloads aren't sustainable. So I want to help fix that by hiring as quickly as we can. And so I'm leaning in personally and making that my number one priority. As far as the product, I don't know if I'm going to pick one. It's early for me to have a favorite, but I am impressed with the overall velocity of the team. We ship a lot of software, so there's things to be excited in each and every area. And so as a product leader, that's a real blessing to have such a machine. My goal is to help the team learn new customer validation and qualitative interviewing techniques to derive even more insights from our customers and make the items that we're feeding the machine that much more customer relevant and impactful. But it's awesome to work at a place where we're getting so much done so fast.
I can verbalize the next question.
Yeah.
Mine's Rupert on the recruiting team. I noticed that you were looking at rolling out a one-day approach to hiring. I was wondering if that had started yet, and if it has done, how's it going?
The one-day approach to hiring. That doesn't ring a bell.
So this merged just before you came on full-time, Scott. So I'll actually jump in a little bit. It was merged about 3 weeks ago. As I understand, we haven't actually enacted it yet. It's a great idea that we're hoping will make a big difference. There's a large lag, from doing a sequential set of like 3 interviews.
Okay.
Let's just block a day, so we all just do interviews the same day. It hasn't started yet. Really looking forward to it starting.
We have. I understand the question now. So you're saying grouping the interviews in one day rather than spreading them out. We have started a bunch of interviews. I've seen a number of searches lately where we have grouped the bulk of the interviews in the same day or in a 48-hour period, and I think that's working much better. The candidate experience is better because they don't have to carve out time away from work multiple days. They can just take a dedicated chunk off. And as a candidate, it's far better to sort of get it all done and get in the flow rather than have to get in that interviewing headspace multiple times on multiple days. So I think it's a good candidate experience. It also helps our team make good decisions. Like everybody's seen the same candidate on the same day. You can debrief on it right away. You can start to get tight on what you're looking for or not looking for in a candidate because you can provide really fresh feedback. So there's a lot of good stuff around grouping the team interviews right together.
I'll plus one that as well as an interviewer participating in that process with Kenny, who I believe is out of office. It's great being able to compare notes, and also it allows the three to collaborate in kind of a justification to be able to advance to the next stage. And I think it's just a very collaborative way of approaching that problem. So I'm definitely a fan.
Okay, next question is me. Hi, Oliver, engineering manager for Secure Team. I was wondering if with the new CD workflow being rolled out for the engineering, is there any corresponding plan in the product team to move the product development into a more streaming approach?
More streaming approach.
Like today, we still have the product development based on a monthly release, so a monthly iteration, and we will end up kind of working on on features subject to be deployed in the next iteration, but actually we are asking developers to merge as soon as possible new things. So we will have a lot of code ending in the current release that will need to be behind feature flags. So we'll be managing a lot of feature flags when we can, because sometimes we just can't. So we will have to delay to all merge requests before getting merged at the right time. So we also have some struggle with UX discovery and things like that are delayed over time. So it could be very easier to have a very streamlined process where as soon as we are ready in the UX design of a feature, we can start the development right away. And when the development is finished, we publish it right away instead of waiting for the next iteration.
I think it's an interesting suggestion. My last company was a SaaS company, and we sort of shipped when things were ready. So I understand the value of that. That said, we really have a lot of infrastructure and rhythm built up around our monthly releases. So this hasn't been a conversation I've been in the middle of yet about whether we should move to a more continuous delivery of features. I think it's a reasonable topic. So I'd like to bring that up with engineering leadership and product marketing leadership to decide what to do there. I think the company is very geared around the monthly release cycle. I think it gives us a chance to talk about what's shipped. Maybe there's a way to still retain that, but get value out to the market faster, particularly on our SaaS offering. So it's a great idea. I haven't had that conversation yet, Olivia.
All right, looks like I have the next question. For those who don't know me, this is Christy Lindholm. I'm our UX director, and I'm really excited to work with you, Scott. Being responsible for UX, being responsible for UX, I'm super excited about your new customer results focus. That's something that my team is also striving for. And so I'd love to hear you talk about your previous experience that's helping you lead us towards this model.
Yeah. Thank you. My last company was called SendGrid, and it's a SaaS-based email communications product, API first. And so while there, I had the opportunity to build out a product team from a very small number to a larger one. And while that was happening, the user experience and design team grew up next to it. And frankly, when we started, the company wasn't particularly customer focused. I think the founders were developers. They felt like they understood the customer really well, and they did. They nailed the first product market fit. But as a product expands and you add a ton of engineers and you add a ton of PMs and you add a ton of designers, most people don't have that same intuition about who the end user is. And frankly, with GitLab, we're serving lots of users now. So I think it's a mistake to assume that you understand who that user is. when you do, you can make a lot of mistakes and operate on gut instinct or what the internal lore is. And so I saw this transition at SendGrid where we got out of that mode and we started basing our decisions on what we heard from our target users rather than what we thought was right internally. And some magical stuff started happening, like the product experience really improved. The hit rate that we had on shipping features successfully really went up. We burned a lot less time from engineering because we had really thought through what was important and what problem to solve. And so that's where the magic happens, is when PMs and designers really get out there and mix it up with customers and develop that intuition about what problem they have, and then the solutions fall out from that. I think assuming you have the solution as a first step is a mistake. So I guess I'll say over years, I saw the benefit of that, and now it's a deep conviction of mine that that's the way to go. But it takes time. The team has to learn new skills is one. We have to change our rhythm somewhat to allow for this validation to occur. And three, we have to have enough PMs and designers to do that work well. You can't expect someone to, crank a monthly release and with having as much going on as we do and go out and do successful customer validation and research unless they have a reasonable scope. And so again, that's why hiring is my #1 priority, because we need to give the team a reasonable amount of scope per PM so they can absorb this extra work.
Hey, Scott.
Yeah.
Real quick, that's great, because I want to commend the product team, specifically Brendan O'Leary, for doing exactly that. We're coming out with an issue called Enforced Template Inclusion in Pipelines. This release, it was specifically asked for from Goldman Sachs. And so, we had a call and a demo with them yesterday, and they said that was exactly what we're looking for. I know it was unpopular from our senior management side of things, starting with all the way up at Sid, that he thought we should implement it a different way and things like that. But it was exactly what Goldman Sachs was asking for. And they're very, very happy with it. So I just want to commend Brendan for taking the stand on that and really stepping up and doing what the customer asked us to do. So thank you.
Yeah, and that's great. And I would qualify that a little bit. I want to be customer driven, but I want to make sure we start with the problem rather than with the specific solution. Now, it could very well be what Goldman asked for is a solution that will apply broadly. I just want to make sure the team is in the mode of get behind the specific ask, understand what the problem is, and then elegant solutions fall out of that. It can be dangerous to just, well, the customer asked for X, so let's do X. You got to get behind that a little bit. So I love the spirit of what happened. Want to make sure we think about the whole customer base while we respond to customer inquiries, if that makes sense.
It does, and I do think it was in that spirit. And they mentioned, and every other financial services customer I've talked to said that's exactly what we need. So it was in that spirit, in that light of doing it. Yes, it was led by a feature request because of a specific outcome with a customer request, but it was executed in a way that really served the purpose of what they were trying to accomplish.
Great. Perfect.
That was an outstanding answer, Scott. Super excited to work with you.
Good. Thank you, Christy. You too.
Hi, it's great to see you.
Hey, Christy.
So you get and our questions relate. They kind of piggyback perfectly. So I was curious just to hear about your background, how you got started in product, and kind of what led you to GitLab today.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. It was a circuitous route to product management. I started out in sales. I did about 4 years in sales and then about 4 years in biz dev. And fairly early on, targeted product management as a function that I wanted to be in. But the leap to go from sales to product management is a pretty big one. That's not a common path to PM. So I went back and got an MBA and focused on management of technology topics. I my biz dev job was very close to the product team, and over time sort of built enough trust in the organization I was in to bridge over to product, and then it's been off to the races ever since. That was about 12 years ago, so it's been a good long run in PM since, but I didn't start out there. About 10 of the last 12 years has been managing and leading large PM teams, in between 10 and 30. So I think one reason why this was a fit was I've scaled and run pretty large teams before. So I was excited to get that opportunity. I live in Boulder, Colorado, so there aren't a ton of companies of GitLab size in the local market. So it was awesome to be able to get this chance to work at a company with this kind of trajectory from where I want to live. I said on my intro call, I'll repeat some of it. I joined because I love the stage the company's at. I love that customers love the product. I love the ambitious product strategy and the markets we're in. And I appreciate how the company works, how organized it is, how disciplined we are, and how much product we ship were the big reasons for coming. Is there anything else I can answer in there, Christy?
No, that was great. I love the history. And just, it's funny. So Scott and I kind of live in the same area. I know some of your former team members that you led at SendGrid. And after talking with
nice.
we were so excited just to have you here. So thank you.
Yeah, it was a great team there. Thank you.
Hey, Patrick Dooley here. So Mark, you had mentioned a few days ago in the product channel that you were taking on acquisitions. I just want to know if you could speak to what our focus is on acquisitions and what sorts of companies we should be on the lookout for acquisition.
Sure, happy to. Well, as you know, our strategy is to ship an entire product or a single product for the entire DevOps lifecycle. And in order to do that, we have identified a lot of surface area for the product that we don't yet currently deliver on, that we will. And so we have a plan to do that in the form of what we call product categories. And there's a ton of these product categories that are still just planned, that don't exist. So our sweet spot for acquisitions is actually to find companies that have delivered on one or more of those categories. And they've got great technology, a great product, great team, but have maybe failed to have market success, and so they're looking for a soft landing for their team. That's the ideal sweet spot for us. There definitely are other opportunities even within our existing categories to strengthen those, and there's always a few opportunistic things, but those are things we're looking for. Now, not all of our categories are equal either, though. So some of those categories are more strategic. I'd say Defend, for example, as a stage, has a ton of categories in there, and that's a great thing where we have nothing in that stage at all. We will eventually build it up, but if we could acquire to fill that would make so much more sense and really accelerate things. But really, any of those categories. The idea is that the acquisition should really accelerate our product strategy, and help us not just add a bunch of people, but add a bunch of capabilities that really drive that strategy.
Awesome. As a quick follow-up, is there a place where we can see like a gap analysis of where we think we're lacking?
Well, I mean, the categories have a maturity table, right? So direction/maturity, and you can actually see what our plan is, and then you could obviously look at that and say, well, anything where it's where it doesn't exist or it's really early stages, I mean, that's the gap. What I actually plan on doing is going over that basically entire list and then adding sort of just a subjective, at least a low, medium, high, which of these would make great acquisitions? Because some of those things, there may be a gap, but we really need to develop it in-house. Some of those things, it's like, well, this is perfect for somebody outside. And then some of them, honestly, are even just better for partners. Like maybe we just fill that because we use some open source tool or even a paid partner potentially. We don't do that very often, but just to say like, okay, these ones would be great for acquisitions. These are great for partners. These ones really would be great for build internally. So that's something I plan on doing over the next couple of weeks.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thank you. I don't see any other questions in the doc. We still have a couple minutes though. I think we need to go to the awkward silence to force people to make more questions.
nailed it.
I've actually got a question for you, Scott.
Whoa, all right.
As customer results is definitely one of the big focuses, but the other big focus is, I don't remember how you phrased it in the doc, but it was, data, ROI, just leveling up there.
Yep.
This is something we've struggled with for a while. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your prior experience and how you think we can, accelerate that, becoming more data aware at least, and
Yep.
ROI driven.
All right. Yeah, great. When I, again, to harken back to my last role at SendGrid, when I joined, we had hardly any telemetry on the product, very little instrumentation. And so we were flying blind more than you would think, given that it was a SaaS product. So we just made it part of our definition of done, basically, that anytime you were going to build something, you needed to have instrumented it so that you know whether your thing was successful or not. We also asked the PMs for each material thing they did to have a success metric so that we could track that and know whether they were successful. So if you know, A, if you know what that success metric is, and B, you instrument things as you build it, then you don't have to catch up later. So that's part of it. We're in catch-up mode right now because we don't have great instrumentation. We also have the added bonus of the fact that a lot of our customers run on-prem, and it's tough to get real-time usage data there. So we have some blocking and tackling, A, to get better data from on-prem customers and to get it more from a higher percentage of them, and to improve the data set itself. And then B, we have some blocking and tackling to do to get better instrumentation off of the .com experience, which we should be able to get in a much more real-time fashion. But it's important to understand that divide. We will probably never have the same kind of visibility on the on-prem side as we do on .com. So let's leverage .com to understand what we believe is going on. We can use that as a proxy for the whole customer base and then cross-check with what we learned from on-prem. So part of it is getting the data set right, making sure that it's just part of the product management flow to have a success metric and track it. And then we're also standing up a growth team. And the growth team is going to be a huge consumer of all this data. I expect the growth team to operate with like a scientific thinking mindset where we have a hypothesis, we go out, we do a test. If it doesn't work, we move on. If it works, great, we keep doing it. We need especially that growth team to be in a mindset of doing quick, small experiments to try to drive outcomes either for the number of people signing up, the number of people upgrading, the number of people using additional things within the product. So it'll be awesome to have a team trying to drive these cross-product outcomes so that the other PMs can focus in their area and sort of benefit from a team that's trying to put it all together across the top. So super excited to see what that team can do once we have the data set we need for them to make smart tests and decisions. Does that help, Mark? Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that's been pretty good. I'll just add a little color there. That one of the ways I look at it is that we've sort of had this blessing and a curse that we've had really good sales performance, and it's been outperforming expectation basically, and so that has allowed us to sort of be complacent and not have to develop this rigor and whatnot in terms of data that another company that like. When you start to fail, then you really need data. And we don't want to wait until that happens. So we need the data now.
Right.
But we've had this curse where sort of like, yeah, we haven't really needed it. So we haven't prioritized it. And now we really just do need to prioritize it.
Yeah, good point. Hey, Rashad.
Hey, how's it going this morning?
Good, how about you?
Oh, pretty good. Thanks for taking my question here. Is real quick. How do we dichotomize your role from Mark's?
I'll take a stab and Mark can pile on. I think to put it simply, Mark owns the 4-year product strategy, so sort of long-term stuff plus M&A. And then I own the 1 year execution plus kind of the whole product management function. So all the hiring, how the team works, how we operate, our process, our flow, and our 1 year our 1 year plans across the product line, sort of my domain. And then Mark has the other 2 areas.
Great. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Hey, Scott, this is John May.
Hey, John.
I worked at Rally and know a lot of the team that ended up at SunGrid from there, and a few other people along that side. So we have a lot of historical people that we probably both know.
Yeah.
I'm actually in South Denver, but so welcome aboard.
Oh, great. Thanks.
I'd love to talk to you about something. I put something on your calendar for a coffee chat for one day, if it's
Sounds good.
within the time frame. So good to have you aboard.
Thank you. Yeah, Katrina Lindholm. I don't know if you know her, but she came over from Raleigh and was our Christie at SunGrid. She was terrific.
Yeah, Katrina was awesome.
Yeah.
Chad Vara, a few other.
Yeah, Chad, CFO.
Yeah. So Jim Legiel and some of the
Uh-huh.
people around. So yeah, we've been around the block, few blocks. Just you were on the left side of the street. I was on the right.
Yep. All right, I guess we're at time. Thank you all for joining.
Yep.
Have a great weekend.